In today's episode, we are going to be speaking with some of our team members on exactly how to put together a great digital course so that you don't end up flopping with your digital product. Because the worst thing that can happen is that you spend months putting together an online course and spending all this time recording videos and scripting everything out and getting your membership site ready. And then you finally launch, and then you launch to the sound of crickets. So today we're going to show you exactly how to avoid that, how to make sure that what you're creating is going to be a great product that people actually want to buy so that you can launch profitably the first time. So stay tuned.
If you want to build a legitimate, profitable online business without shiny objects, without the hypey gimmicks, and without the stress and overwhelm, if you want to make more money without having to be present online all day, every day, pumping out content that nobody sees and hustling DMs to generate leads and sales, then this is the place for you. Welcome to the Digital Trailblazer podcast, your online business university, where you'll learn how ordinary people start from ground zero with no influence, no email list or audience to sell to, and no business or marketing experience, and go from working 9-to-5 jobs to building successful 6- and 7-figure online businesses and all the steps in between. Learn the strategies that worked and what didn't. Learn the mistakes that they made and how to avoid them, and then learn their plans for scaling their businesses and taking things to the next level. All so that you can build your business faster and easier and make more money without sacrificing the things that are important to you in your life. I'm your host, Leah Ray Getz, and with me is my husband, Todd. Now let's get to it with today's guest. Welcome, Digital Trailblazers. I am super excited to introduce you to our team member, Morgan Meredith. She is an expert when it comes to instructional design. So this is kind of going to be a two-part conversation. We're going to dive deep into what makes an amazing program that your people are going to love, that's going to help them with whatever transformation that you can provide for them. And then we're also going to dive super deep on the marketing and the positioning of this so that it's actually going to sell. So Morgan is our instructional design gal. She's amazing. So welcome, Morgan. We're super excited to have you with us.
Thank you so much. So great to see you guys.
So let's dive in. Just at the beginning level, right? Like, what makes a great course when it comes to the actual content itself, not the marketing piece, but what's actually in it and how it's structured?
A great course is one that actually gets results. So people aren't there to just consume your content and learn something. The real results happen in their lives, in their communities, in their jobs, in their families, actually in the real world. And that work doesn't come from reading something, listening to something, watching something. It comes from their practices and actually getting out there doing it. So that's the difference between a course and a book. Everyone gets books as a gift all the time. They just sort of stack themselves up on the side of your bed. Maybe you read them. Maybe you read them over a year. Maybe you never actually finish reading them. But ultimately, the exercises at the end of the chapter, if you go and do them, that's how you get the results. And that's where I think a lot of people fall off, is they focus too much on digging into details that don't matter or focusing on things that don't matter instead of actually talking about how do we make sure people get the results they should have.
And I think one of the other things that you kind of touched on there that's really important is that the course needs to be something that actually produces a transformation. It's not just a collection of information. Because I think a lot of people, when they're putting the course together, they think that they're just going to put information in there about how to lose weight, or information about how to go on a vegan diet, or how to do this or that or the other thing. But it's not really structured in a way to get them the result at the end. It's basically just like, okay, here's information about this, and here's the course. And I think the problem with that is that information is free and it's everywhere. You basically put together a little Google search as a course, because that's all it is, right? People can Google search how to lose weight and they're going to find information about it. And if that's all your course is, well, it's not worth anything more than a free Google search. Whereas if it's structured in a way where you're taking steps day by day or week by week towards achieving a goal, and there's action items to take each step of the way, and you're actually making progress week after week, that's something completely different. That's something you can't get from Google or YouTube or anything else.
100%. So walk us through your process, right, to creating a great transformational program.
I start at the end. I start at what is the result that we want people to have, and how will we know they got that result? And so then we work backwards from there and we talk about what are the basic things people need to work their way through to get this result. And we break those down into as small of steps as we can. I tell people in general to make their videos 3 to 5 minutes, because we want to make sure that people can know exactly which one to go back to. And so I will help them design what should that script be, what should those slides be, and all of that stuff to make sure that we get them there piece by piece. We want them to be able to go back through and find that module that was challenging for them and watch it again quickly, be able to absorb that information quickly. And we also, along the way, as we're creating these modules, we create the assignments. And when I say assignments, it sounds very school-y, and sometimes they are quizzes, but these aren't quizzes that are like, name 3 things from paragraph 2 that you got out of it. Because again, that doesn't really indicate transformation. That indicates regurgitation, right? So we want to give assignments that are out there in the real world with them practicing what they got, not just regurgitating it.
What guideline would you provide when it comes to like workbooks or handouts or some of those accessory pieces, in addition to like what people typically think of as the core of like the video format of their course?
That's a really interesting question. I don't actually have a guideline for that, Leah. It's more just kind of, I hate to use this, but it is kind of a gut feeling of, okay, we made our way through this content as we're sort of testing, like, okay, I got what you said. I have my practice. I feel like I need something to hang up somewhere or something to print out. So making something that can be printed out, it's just when we need it. I think people sometimes like to give more than they need to, where we've got 30 handouts for each module and a video and a homework assignment, right? So we do a lot of paring down, which is great because people have just this wealth of information to share about what they know. It's their passion, it's their life's work. And actually, we do a lot of paring it down. We spend a lot of time in building a course on refocusing on what's the very first nugget kernel somebody needs to get to that end goal. So, for instance, I was working with a woman who was creating, she was creating a course on how to build and launch an Amazon seller account. She absolutely transformed her life by creating her Amazon seller account. She ended up starting her own company, setting that up for other people. And she said, not everyone can afford my assisted services. So but I still want to help them. I want to be able to give this course at a lower price point so it fits in her business model and be able to help everyone who comes to me, even if they can't afford my services right now. They need to get to a level where they can afford my services. This course will help them get there. Huge part of her business model. So, she's talking about how to get your first $10,000 in your Amazon seller account. We had to keep coming back to that because she was on level 100 of she was at like how to get your account to $500,000, right? And I was like, okay, but how do I get my first dollar, right? So these things that are just so clear for her brand new audience, we had to keep coming back to what are the basics. And I think that's where we have to do a lot of paring down.
I think that distinction you made there with her course about the goal of getting to $1 million versus getting to $10,000, that's the difference, I think, between a course that's just information versus a course that produces a result. Because it's like we were talking about before, where if all she had done was put together a course about here's how to set up a seller account, well, there's hundreds and upon hundreds of videos on YouTube that show you that exact thing. So if people can just do a simple YouTube search to do that, well, then why would they buy your course? Versus setting up a seller account so that you can get your first 10,000 and then from there get to your first million. That's a completely different thing that I think really speaks to the type of results that you want to focus on in your business. And it may not be a monetary thing. For example, if you help people to lose weight or get healthy or improve their health through a vegan diet. And the reason I use this example is because we talked to a prospect that this was their thing, right? We asked them, okay, what is your program about? What does it help them to achieve? Like after they complete this, what are they going to be able to do? And her answer to that was, well, they're going to know how to go on a vegan diet. And it's like, well, okay, that's a Google search, and you're not going to be able to charge money for that. So it's like, what the question you need to ask is, what do they want to do with that vegan diet? People don't go on a vegan diet just because they like vegetables. People go on a vegan diet to achieve a different goal, right? It's a means to an end, and that's really what we want to focus the course on, I think. And it's the same thing with the seller account. People don't just open seller accounts because they want to open a seller account. They want to open that because they want to achieve the specific goal, which is making money. So focusing on that money goal, I think, is really what is going to help to make that to sell, as well as, when we're talking about vegan diet, well, does that mean that we're losing weight? Does that mean that we're improving your labs? Does that mean we're reducing triglycerides, or what is it? That's the important distinction between information and a result.
And I think there's even a few more layers to that, Todd, where, people, their why is usually not the thing they're signing up for. And I think this is where like the solid coaching comes in, right? Because you want to make $500,000 with your Amazon store. You don't want to make $500,000 to have $500,000. You want to make $500,000 so you can, let's say, go on vacation with your elderly parents, or spend more time with your children, pick them up from school every day so that you're not in your 9 to 5, which has become a 6 to 10, like where you're just at work all the time. Like that's the freedom you're looking for with your Amazon store. And same thing with this vegan diet. Like you're not going on a vegan diet to go on a vegan diet. You're going on a vegan diet. You mentioned improving labs. Why do you want to improve labs? So that you live longer because you have someone depending on you, or so that you can go water skiing and you've never done that before. And that sounds kind of fun. And right now you can't because something's not working in your body. And like the real thing that people are searching for is like joy or time or, quality time. Like that kind of thing is always what's really underneath that.
Yeah, absolutely. What is a common mistake that people make when they're putting together the program?
I would say 2 common mistakes that I see course creators make. One is getting too far away from the point. So keeping yourself focused on what is it that they need to get out of this lesson or this module. They go off on all kinds of tangents and say all kinds of things. The other thing is they don't say the basic stuff. They avoid saying the most foundational pieces of how to get what they got or how to get what they're leading people to, because they say it's obvious, or I say this all the time. I say this on my Instagram. I say this on my Facebook. I say this on my YouTube. I say it all day, every day. That doesn't mean your student has heard it. And that doesn't mean they've heard it from you. So, we know from advertising, people need to hear things a whole bunch of times for it to sink in. Guess what? That includes the basics of how to get what they're trying to get. So you have to tell them again, and it's okay if you're repeating the same thing over and over. In fact, it's great because you are consistent. You consistently give them their formula to get from A to B transformation.
Absolutely. And there's a lot of mistakes that people can make with putting together the program. So we actually have a free giveaway for everyone today. We brought together Morgan's list of top 10 mistakes that course creators make, along with our profitable launch playbook, a nice little combo for the audience today. So we will have the links in the show notes for this. So you make sure everyone wants to grab that. So a lot of people, I think, get stuck in the getting ready to get ready phase of putting together a course or a program. So how does someone know that they're actually ready to take this step?
So you're ready if you are ready to transform someone's life. And if you are a coach or someone who works in one of these industries, you're already doing it. So can you then allow us to take that knowledge you already have tucked away and turn that into something that's repeatable for many of your clients or many potential clients? Something that gets in the way a lot is people feel like they're getting ready to get ready. They're standing. They're like, well, I need to do all of these things before I can start. Like, if we give it to Digital Trailblazer, they won't know what to do with it. That's not true, actually, because part of what I do is pull it out of you. So we do some very conversational, very interview style situations where I just ask you, hey, pretend I'm your client and here's where I'm at in my life. And how do I get there? How do I start? And then I refine that into these steps. Like, you don't have to do that work yourself. That's why I'm an expert at this. That's why I'm here.
Yeah, I think all in all, people wait too long. I know for Todd and I, back when we got started, we were giving away our strategies for such a long time before we took the time to put together a program. And for us, and the frustrating part is, like, we were working so hard, making, like, yes, we were bringing in 6 figures, but it was a really hard-earned 6 figures. As soon as we started offering a digital product, a digital course that taught all of these things that we were giving away for free, we went from low 6 figures to 7 figures in a year. It was like overnight because we were leaning into our zone of genius. We had something valuable to give. And frankly, we waited too long to take action. And that irks me slightly today. And I want people to not take too long. So there's a lot of different ways that you can do this. We have Morgan on our team to help people who really need a hands-on approach to pulling out their program. And it's an amazing opportunity to work with her. But even a live launch version, if someone is stuck on the getting ready to get ready wheel, that just they're not moving forward, I would rather, okay, let's get a good outline of what you're going to cover. Let's get your marketing materials in place so you can start generating leads. You can start actually selling this. And then let's just deliver it live the first time through so you actually get out there in the marketplace. You get something in front of people. You get that interaction from people in your group who are going through it. And you're able to, in the end, make something better because you're getting feedback the whole time. And you're moving forward and you're not stuck, which happens way too often.
Yeah, turning a live delivered course into an online course is super simple because then you also have, like you said, the feedback. You also have the questions people are asking, like, oh yeah, I should have put that in. That is brilliant. Let's add that to the module and that kind of thing. Or one I'm working on right now, we realized they did a live session that ended up going an hour and a half. So we split that one into several modules and sub-modules, about 2 different major topics that they covered. People don't realize they've already got this stuff organized more than they think. They've already got this stuff tucked away. The things that you say over and over to your clients or to your potential clients, the advice that you give over and over. I even built a course for a woman who was a chiropractor. And she said, I keep telling people who are first starting to work with me, I tell them the same practices over and over. I tell them the same onboarding, basically. And she said, I'm just tired of like continually doing this. Yeah. So let's build a course that's just that. Like, absolutely brilliant. And then obviously it's getting her more business.
Yeah, I think having an amazing transformational course and program is key, getting it out there before it's too late. But let's be real. There are a lot of people out there who've spent months, if not years, unfortunately, putting together their amazing program, and they have yet to make a single sale. They've invested hours and hours and hours of their lives into this and all of their expertise, and no one is buying. And to me, that's like the worst case scenario, right? Pouring your heart and soul into something, so much time and energy, and it's not helping anyone, and it's not helping your your checkbook either. So, Todd, what do you find? Let's dive into the marketing side now here, right? And making sure that this is actually positioned to sell from the beginning. And this is honestly, a lot of people will say hey, I want to work with you guys, but I want to create the course first, and then I'll come to you guys to get help with marketing. And I'm like, I get what you're thinking. However, I don't want you to have to go back and have to redo your work around the program, because when you get to us, the positioning's not on point and it's going to be really hard to sell. So I would much, much rather help you position this from the beginning to sell. And then you can put it together, and then we can do this right the first time and one time and move this baby forward. So Todd, cue you up here. How do we set up a course, a program to really make sure that this is going to sell from the beginning?
Yeah. And I think you kind of hit the nail on the head there, is that people have this thought that creating the course is the hard part. Like once I get that done, it's like, all right, we're over the hill. Now let's get ready to, let's post about this. It's going to go viral. People are going to buy, and then crickets. Right? And that's the thing, is that creating it is actually the easier part. Selling it is the hard part. And that's often just a big wake-up call for a lot of people when they hit that point, and it can be very discouraging. So we want to avoid that if at all possible. I think the number one key, especially towards the beginning when your marketing skills aren't so sharp, you need to work on building a warm audience as you're putting your course together. Really, that's just the best way to ensure that you're going to have a good, profitable launch, because people are going to be warmed up to you already. They already have you already have that know, like, and trust factor. They already see you as an authority. They've already learned from you. They know your teaching style. All these things that help you to make sales are already going to be in place if you start building your audience first, which means you got to start creating content. It means you need to start building an email list. You need to start doing these basic marketing things. It doesn't have to be complicated. It doesn't have to be a lot, but you want to start getting people familiar with you and your name and your brand and what you do and how you do it and all that stuff, because it's so much easier to sell to people who already know you than to sell to people who've never seen you before. They've never heard from you before. They don't know if you're credible or not. It's much more difficult to make that sale. So number one is build the audience first.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the margin for error when they don't know you and you're trying to sell something is like nothing. Like you have to be sharp. Everything has to be on point. Your marketing message, it's got to be there, versus you have a bit more wiggle room when you have that know, like, and trust, when you have people who you've already, deposited in that authority and goodwill bank. And then if you say something not quite right, or the messaging's okay, but not amazing, you still have a shot at being able to make some sales.
And the other thing is that when you are building an audience as you're creating your course or your program, you're able to get feedback from the people who are going to be your future customers. So you'll see what topics are more popular with them, what pain points are the biggest factors for them. You're going to see all these things by the way that they engage with your content, by the click rates. There's all these metrics that you're going to be able to gather and all this marketing data as you're creating your course. These are things that are going to be really important when you want to sell to a cold audience later on. And so being able to gather that while you're building your course, not only is it going to help you to launch, but it's going to help you to refine your course, refine your marketing message, and just be able to hit the ground running with cold marketing when you're ready for that.
So walk our audience through the positioning and the actual marketing message for a successful course or program.
So the first thing I would say is that if you have not yet listened to the episode, we did an episode about positioning and your marketing message with a guy named Marty Marion. And I think it was episode 88. If you go back to that episode, he gives an absolute masterclass on how to do this. But I'm going to try to summarize right here. There's a couple really important things that you need to do in order to make sales. When you think about people who are online and they've got a problem or that they're trying to solve, or a goal that they want to achieve, and they're sitting down at their keyboard and they're about to type something in to try to solve this problem, the first thing you have to realize is that they're going to get millions of search results. Those search results are your competitors. So the way that Marty puts it, I think, was just so well articulated. But the way he puts it is that the decision to buy is a process of elimination. It's not just about you convincing people why you're the best or why your program is so much better than everybody else. It's also a matter of addressing all the competition out there, all the other paths to the goal, and why your method is going to be different and better than the rest. So one of the very first things that you need to do is opposition research. You need to know what else is out there. What are people's other options for achieving the same goal that you help them to achieve? Okay, so if you are a weight loss coach and you deal specifically with middle-aged women, you want to find other people who are targeting that demographic with that same goal and see what their messaging is, see how they position their offers. Because if you position your offer the same way that they're positioning their offer, well, now your audience has options. And really, it's going to be who's got the most name recognition, who's got the lower price. It's going to come down to all these other things that you just can't control. And you don't want to be in that situation where you can't control it. So you want to be able to know what's out there so that you can have different positioning and superior positioning.
So what are some of the clues? How does someone know if their messaging needs some work?
Oh, yeah, that's a good one. So number one is that you need to have enough traffic coming in. If you've quote launched and you put together a webinar or something to sell your program and you've only had like 12 people watch it, that's not enough people to know whether it's successful or not. You need, I would say, ideally 200 to 300 people going through a sales presentation. And at that point, you can gauge if you're making sales or not. If you're not making sales at that point, then yeah, that's a good indication that there's something off about your messaging that people are deciding not to buy and join. It could be your price point. It could be some other things. But typically, if you're in the right range for price and you're still not making sales, then that tells me that your messaging is just completely off, or there's some unanswered question or some objection people have that you're just not addressing. So that would be the first clue. There's ways to figure that out more specifically. One of the things that we do is a didn't buy survey. So at the end of a presentation, we have an automation that runs in the background, and it'll find anybody who watched the presentation but decided not to purchase. And it'll target them with an email that says, hey, I noticed that you saw this presentation about how to do X, Y, and Z. And I made a special offer at the end of the training, and I'm kind of disappointed because you decided not to buy. And that's totally cool, but I'd really like to know the reason why. And if you're willing to give me some honest feedback, I'd be willing to give you blank. And so basically, we're going to bribe people to give us the feedback as to why they decided ultimately not to buy and join. And that could be maybe the first module in your course. That could be maybe one of the bonuses that you're offering with your course. Something that's related to what you're doing that is really juicy that will, give you the feedback that they want. And then the survey that they fill out, you want it to be detailed, but you don't want it to be too cumbersome that they get halfway through and quit. So you just want to ask some very direct questions that give you the answer that you need in as short amount of time as possible. That will help to clue you in where you need to improve your presentation and your positioning.
I love this. People love to give feedback. They really do. Like, I think of all the times where I didn't buy something for some very obvious reason. Like, I wish they would ask me.
I'll tell you.
Yeah. Well, when people run their beta test of their course, a lot of times if they're doing a live component, maybe they're running it with a group as well, I tell them, make it very easy for people to give you feedback on what worked and what didn't work. People are not shy. They love to give their opinion. They love to give feedback. I love that didn't buy survey.
Yeah. And the other thing is, we mentioned with building the audience, the other thing that will help you to do when you build a warm audience that's easy to sell to, and so you get those first handful of customers or several customers, is that those are going to help you to get the testimonials you need to sell to a cold audience later too. Because that's really important to be able to sell to a cold audience, is third-party validation that your course is legitimate, that you are credible, that it helps people to get results, right? That it's actually working for other people who are like them. Those testimonials are what do that. And if you don't have that, it's really hard to get that if you're not making sales. So going back to the whole warm audience concept, that is really one of the most important things, because all the marketing knowledge that you need to be able to sell to a cold audience is going to come from the warm audience. All the, the testimonials and, just everything that you need, you can get from that warm audience if you do that work beforehand. But if you wait till your course is all done and then you're like, okay, let's ready, we're going to sell now. Oh, I got to build an audience first. And then you start building, well, that's a months-long process as well. So you're basically going to cut your time at least in half by building your audience as you build out your course.
And I see a lot of folks who, they've got an offer out there. They've maybe got a lead magnet. They've got some content that they're putting out there, and it simply isn't resonating. I hear this over and over and over again, that people just aren't responding, that they're really struggling. And so there's the marketing message, on the sales webinar, on the whatever conversion event that you're working on. But that same concept and the same principles there are going to be threaded through everything, right? Because you start with the end in mind, right, of what you're trying to sell. And now your content, your landing page, all of that stuff should be based off of that, your marketing message and who you help, how you help, and what's that transformation look like? Why do they want that transformation? What are they avoiding? All of those core elements are involved throughout this whole process. And so a really big challenge in this space, especially for coaches who are life coaches, who are mindset coaches, who do something that affects someone's entire life, is boiling down and coming up with a really succinct, powerful message that people can understand the exact transformation that you're going to help them to achieve.
Yeah, and that's a tough one. That's one we see all the time, and I know exactly why you brought that up. It's because every time we bring on a life coach into our program, when we ask them, what is it that you help people to do? Like 99 out of 100 times, they're going to say, well, whatever they want to do, we help them to do it.
Yeah.
Right. And that's not specific enough. People aren't sitting down at their keyboard and Google searching, okay, how to do what I want to do, right? They've got a specific thing that they want to achieve. That might be career advancement. That might be being more sociable and likable. That might be having less fear and anxiety in social situations. That might be finding true love. There's so many things that people would hire a life coach for. And people are not looking for a generic solution to a specific problem.
I warned them before they come into our program, we're going to make you niche down. We're going to have to get more specific. And what I see from people is this resistance to do so in the mindset and life coaching space, because they can help so many ways and help so many people. And I tell them, if you get referrals and word of mouth, absolutely take whoever is coming to you. If you can help them, that's wonderful. But what we're talking about is narrowing down when it comes to the marketing, the messaging that you're pushing out into the world. That's what needs to be really, really specific.
And I can't remember, there was an example I heard once about, and this wasn't a digital product, this was actually a product on Amazon. These people had created, and I forget exactly what it was, but it was something that was typically for women. It might have been a hairbrush or something like that. And it was just a flooded market for this product. And, all the products looked the same and they're packaged very similarly. And it was really hard for them to make sales. They were constantly having to lower their price. And they were to the point where they were like, okay, let's just discount this so that we're getting cost and we can break even and get rid of this. But before they did that, they were like, okay, well, there's some men who are searching for this as well. Like, because you can see the search terms that people are searching for in Amazon. And so one of those that came up as suggested was like hairbrush for men or something like that. And so like, okay, well, for men, okay, well, why don't we just rebrand this and see what happens? And that's all they did. It's this exact same product. They just changed the title of the listing. And I don't even know if they changed the packaging. I think the packaging may have even been the same, but it was just changing the title of the listing to hairbrush for men or something like that. And suddenly it was selling like hotcakes because there was nobody else competing there because they had niched down to something specific. And they were able to bring the price back up and command actually a much higher price than what all the other ones, that weren't branding for men were selling for. And it's the same thing that we do with digital products. If you're selling a course on weight loss for who? Is it weight loss for teens? Is it weight loss for middle-aged men with a dad bod? Is it weight loss for women going through menopause? Is it weight loss for women who just had a baby, who have all this baby weight? Those are specific niches that you can target. There's 7 figures to be made in every single one. So many times people are afraid to niche down because they think, oh, well, I'm excluding people who might be coming in that might buy. If I say that this is just for people with dad bods, well, I might be missing out on that one sale. Well, okay, yeah, go ahead and water down your messaging so that you might be able to get that one sale, but you're missing out on 7 figures by watering down your messaging like that. And that's the thing, like people want to feel like they're buying something that is specifically tailored to their situation. And if you can do that, you're going to be so much better off than your competition.
Yeah, that actually reminds me of the previous guest that we had on from Mother Trucker Yoga.
Oh, yeah.
Right? She was just a yoga person, but yoga instructors are very, very, very common. And she carved out this super obscure niche with truckers and created an empire over there crushing it with physical products, digital products, with corporate stuff. Like, she's doing amazing. And she had no background in trucking. She wasn't a trucker, nothing like that. She was simply a yoga person who was looking for a different angle, a different niche that she could serve. And she's killing it because she really got that super nailed down.
Yep. And that was a previous episode of our podcast as well. If you look for the episode with Hope Zavara, that was it. I forget what number it was, but that was her name, was Hope Zavara. If you look for that episode, that's her. And she talks all about how she was able to do that with her messaging and everything.
One lesson that I want our audience to take from this is to not wait too long. The longer that you sit on your knowledge, this expertise that you have that can change people's lives, the longer people will suffer without that transformation. So it's not just about you. It's not about having to have everything absolutely stinking perfect. It's about taking action, moving things forward, and it's not going to be perfect, but take action anyway. Get something on the market. You're going to reiterate. You're going to adjust. You're going to learn through this process. And when it's on the market, when you're out there interacting in the marketplace, you have the opportunity to change countless lives. So please don't wait any longer.
Yeah. And I would say that, in this episode, we covered a lot of things, and there's so many more things that we need to talk about in this, because, we talked about what goes into a great course and how to structure it and everything else like that. And then we talked about how to position it and how to be unique in the marketplace so that you can actually make sales. But there's other things that go into that, such as, well, how do you deliver that message? Typically that's in a webinar, but that could also be in a challenge. That could also be in a secret podcast, which is another strategy that was talked about in one of our previous podcast episodes. There's a lot of ways to deliver that message in order to make sales. And then also traffic. Traffic is one of the most important things. If you don't have traffic, you can't test any of this and you just don't know. So how are you going to get that traffic? Because you can't just post about your course on Facebook or Instagram and hope that it goes viral and people magically buy. It just doesn't happen that way. You need to get skilled at driving traffic. And that could be organic traffic. That could be paid ads traffic. There's a lot of ways to do that. But if you don't know how to drive traffic, your business is just dead in the water. So there's a lot more to this than what we went over today. But the things that we went over today are the very most important beginner steps that you need to have in place. If you want some more help with those other things, I'd say the very first thing that you want to do is download our free guide, Profitable Launch Playbook. That is on our website at digitaltrailblazer.com. There, if you look there, there will be a menu item that says free stuff. Click on that, and that will be one of the items that you can choose from there. And if you want to talk with us directly and kind of get more of a straight answer on exactly what we would recommend for your business and your offer and your price point and your niche that you're trying to target, there's another button on our website that says Get Our Help. Click on that, fill out the quick survey, and you can book a call with us. And it's a free consultation that we give to everybody.
Well, hopefully this has been really insightful for everybody. We really appreciate your time, Morgan, joining us here on the podcast. Thank you, everyone, and have a blessed day. You've been listening to the Digital Trailblazer podcast. For show notes and information about today's guest, head to digitaltrailblazer.com. Now, if you love this episode, if you got some value, make sure you leave us a review and subscribe. And be sure to share this episode with anyone you know who could use help to build their business. Thank you for listening, and we'll see you next time.